I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
This meeting is being by video streamed at bit.ly/3SROLQR. We move to item number 4, which is the adoption of the agenda. However, based on what we have to do tonight, I would like to make a couple of changes to the agenda if possible. I would like to start with the workshop so that we can get our insurance representative out of here, or so that we can do that and then return to the meeting. I have no other changes to the agenda at this time. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Hello.
Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries. We'll go to item number 5, which is public participation first. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the board?
No, sir.
All right. At this time, I'm going to suspend the regular board meeting and we'll move directly into our workshop session. I'd like to remind everyone that the boys basketball game is going on this evening. So it'd be nice to move along and make it. No pressure. Sure.
May I begin, Mr. Gufo?
Yes, sir.
Every year we take out property and casualty insurance for the district, and February 28th is when our current policy ends. This insurance covers everything from if something damages one of our buildings to if we get an auto accident, if we have professional educator liability, if we also have we're under cyber attack to our district as well as we have active and shooter insurance as well too. Our current broker is Carlisle Insurance, and we have Chase Carlisle here to talk a little bit about the renewal process, what our insurances cover, and what we can expect to bring to the board in January so that we can make sure that we make the best decision for our district before our coverage ends at the end of February. I'd like to bring up Chase Carlisle from Carlisle Insurance. Sir.
Good evening. First of all, I want to thank you for moving me around on your agenda. I know my wife, who's home with 3 kids, greatly appreciates that right now. As Mr. Pitts said, I'm here this evening with 2 objectives. The first one, I do want to go through what our current program does cover, answer any questions or concerns that anybody may have in regards to that program, and then give a brief update on where we are in the renewal process. Mr. Pitts did kind of allude to a few of our coverages, but again, we're talking about property and casualty insurance this evening. When we talk about property coverage, we're talking about obviously insuring our buildings and the contents within them, as well as any ancillary items that we may have on our schedule, stadium lighting, bleachers, fencing, etc. And we do insure those items for a variety of things. Most notably, what we think about are fires, tornadoes, hurricanes, hailstorms, etc. So we do have those coverages in place. We have different deductible structures depending on which type of occurrence we're referencing, but just to keep it short and simple, any type of named storm, so a hurricane or tropical storm, we do have a 2% windstorm deductible. That 2%, we like to talk about kind of what would be the worst case scenario that God forbid we had, a Cat 5 come through the area and damage every facility within the district. A 2% deductible would be factored on our total property valuations, which as we sit here currently, we're insuring approximately $158 million worth of values. So the 2% factor on that, worst case example, again, the district would have a $3.1 million deductible should we have one of those catastrophic events. Again, that deductible does not apply as a whole unless everything was damaged. It does apply per building. So some of the times, which is most of the times what we see South Texas, thankfully, are some of these smaller storms that may skirt to the north or south of us, where we do have some damage, but not significant damage to every facility in the district. So the deductible would just apply to the building that did have damage. So don't necessarily, if you have a hurricane come through, have a $3.1 million deductible. I just like to refer to it as a worst case scenario, so everybody understands that. In addition to the property coverages, we do have, we include flood insurance in that property program as well. But going on down the list here, he did mention we carry cyber liability. Cyber liability is a big buzzword and has been in the market for a number of years. I'm sure everybody sees these types of cyber attacks that are happening around the nation and globally. In fact, you know, when we implemented it in our program a few years ago, I would say over the last 2 years, those losses in the districts have really ticked up. And it started probably about 6 or 7 years ago. We had our first cyber attack down at Region 1 at the service center. And since then, it really hasn't stopped. They're very prevalent nowadays. So it's a very important coverage that we do include in the program. General liability, everybody's here is probably aware that the state has awarded public entities tort immunity from a liability standpoint. We still do carry some coverage that does provide defense coverage should we get in a situation where somebody wants to sue the district for a slip, trip, and fall, or some other property liability claim that may be associated with the district. There is some coverage provided for that as well. Sorry, can everybody hear me all right? Okay, sorry. And then educators' legal liability. So we also refer to that as a board liability policy. That provides protection for everybody sitting here for making these decisions on policies and procedures. Should somebody bring a claim against the board for, you know, whatever it may be. It also includes what we refer to as employment practices liability. Those are HR related issues for wrongful termination, failure to hire, promote, sexual harassment, etc. That's where we get our liability coverages for the district in that form and fashion. And then lastly, the auto liability and auto physical damage. So we do have a schedule of yellow and white fleet vehicles that we're providing coverage on a liability standpoint, as well as the physical damage should any vehicles be involved in an accident. If anybody has a question, please stop me. I'll sit up here and talk all night so you can't get to the game.
I do. Back to
Yes, sir.
back to the deductible on the catastrophic event. It's a pretty standard.
I would say 2% nowadays is kind of on the lower end of things. Maybe not necessarily once we get west of 77. I know we're kind of right on the border, but our districts that we have, such as Aransas Pass, Deloso Midway, Cal Allen, these districts that are a little bit closer to the coast, they're actually sitting at 3 to 5% deductibles right now. What I would anticipate, and I'll get a little bit more into that when I give my update on the renewal, is that we will probably be increasing that deductible this year, just from a standpoint of a cost saving standpoint.
We get classified as a coastal county because we are a coastal county, but it's not really sitting on the coast like some of those others are. So
Yeah, and really what we've seen over the years, and this will kind of get into my market update, but these insurance companies that we're buying the insurance from, they use a software system that they refer to as a modeling system. And basically the way that works is they take all your construction data and they put it in this this computer system, basically, and it models based on the construction data, the year built, the facility, where they are GPS located, what the scenarios would be in Cat 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 hurricane. And over the years, what those models have shown is the damage 40 miles away from the coast is pretty much the same as it is sitting right on the coast. Maybe not from a surge and flood standpoint. I mean, flood, yes, because obviously it's going to rain, but from a surge standpoint, not necessarily. But the wind's blowing in Cat 5 just as hard as it is on the beach, because it's going to be right here in Kingsville, Texas.
In regards to the insurance for vehicles for our fleet or for our fleet, do you have any discounts, like good driver discounts, or like no wreck for a year or something like that for the whole fleet?
It's funny. Normally, yes, I would say yes if we're in a private business or something of that nature. The way that the school business is rated, we actually they don't even look at a driver's list to underwrite the policy. It's based on your losses, but other than that, we're not checking ABRs for drivers, any of that stuff. There really isn't. And I'll tell you why, because again, it goes back to the tort immunity laws that the district is fortunate to have. I believe the maximum you can sue a district worth $100,000 on a vehicle accident. Versus in the private industry, we always see the ads in the news, $15, $25, $30 million. And so it's a lot more important for the travelers, the Hartfords, et cetera, Allstate, Geico, to make sure that the driver is an adequate driver in those vehicles because there's so much on the line. But in y'all's case, it's $100,000, which is a lot of money to me and you, but at the end of the day, for an insurance company, it's really kind of minute, just to be honest with you. Majority of y'all's costs, I mean, just so you're aware, last year, you guys paid right at about $1 million for your property and casualty insurance. The breakdown of that is about 900,000 of that is property insurance. The auto insurance, for example, is about 50,000. So I don't know. We've got a 54 power units. It looks like we're insuring currently. So you know the auto insurance is significantly cheaper than what you'd see in the private world.
Mr. Carl,
Yes, sir.
where does our protection come? You mentioned something that anybody that applies for the district, and let me know if I'm wrong, or you just put them on there. You just get them insured as an employee. Is there a background done check on our drivers?
Hopefully.
I mean, I'm asking.
Yes, Dr. Holt might be able to elaborate.
There's a background check on all of our employees.
Okay,
Someone, they're
All right.
GPS.
and well, yeah.
They have random drug tests every month for bus drivers.
So in the chat that it doesn't happen, but like it happened with that FedEx driver that just got on and was delivering and then did this horrible thing. How are we protected should something like that?
Those types of claims would be filed on the educated legal's liability policy for board liability is where those types of coverage would be provided. Yes, sir.
But we are covered.
Yes, sir. Just a couple other things that I think is important to point out.
One question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Does your cybersecurity cover cyber fraud, phishing attempts, posing as vendors, trying to collect data, HR, sort of thing?
Depends on if that would fall into the definition of a breach. I don't have that policy word in front of me specifically. I'd be happy to talk to you offline at any point to discuss those things and go through the policy. But it does provide, breach coverage. It does part third party liability. So the district being liable for that information getting out in the public. It does cover stuff such as the credit monitoring, the reporting, all these kind of things. The important part I think about it is because we had a breach in our firm about 6 years ago and had no idea what to do, is the policy does provide a third party response firm that specializes in these types of things. So being paid on the phone and call them and say, hey, here's what's going on, here's what's happening, and they know exactly what we need to do. They know what the federal reporting requirements are, the monitoring, all that kind of stuff, and it's all taken care of through the policy. It pays for all that kind of stuff. So it's an important coverage. Like I said, in addition to the policy that is provided by the program that we do have you guys with are a couple items that I do find important. One of those is that, and let's go through my renewal process a little bit, but we do have a third party firm that does review the property valuations every year, so that we're making sure that we're keeping our property schedule and the values that our buildings are valued at up to current standards of what it costs to rebuild them today, because the policy again does pay replacement costs. So should a building in high school go down, it's going to pay to rebuild that up to what we have it scheduled on the policy for. So we want to make sure that we don't fall behind, especially in these times of inflation, supply and demand issues. We make sure that we're maintaining those property valuations to where they need to be should we have a disaster and have to rebuild something. The other part on when we talk about the auto insurance specifically, the firm does provide driver training. So whether that be in-house or electronically, those services are provided to the district. It goes even further. That doesn't provide some, we call it PCAT University. It's employee training. So should Dr. Pettis say, hey, I want every principal to take an online class on bullying or whatever, we can set that up. It's electronically driven, so it goes out to every principal or teacher, whoever we want to do it for. Whoever's in charge of that can monitor it to make sure that they fulfill it and go through the class and track that stuff for you as well. So there are some resources that are in addition to those types of things that we do provide as well. And the last one that we do provide, and I'm not sure, maybe Peter, if y'all are participating in the Safe Plus program or not, but the Safe Plus program is kind of like how's my driving sticker on the back of the buses. Some districts like it, some don't, but I think it's a very good program to participate in. The fact that it has to be a valid hit, so it can't be somebody that just had a bad day, it's mad at the district. When they call in, they have to give the bus number and they have to leave their name, their phone number, what the incident was, et cetera. The success we've seen in that program is that, you know, you may have one of your best drivers who gets a complaint one day and they come in and the driver, manager, what do you call him, fleet manager, whoever it is, you gotta call him, says, hey, you know, Sally, what's going on? You know, we got a complaint today that you ran 2 stoplights or whatever. Well, you know, Sally may have just got, her husband may have just said, hey, I'm leaving you or something like that. But maybe we need to pull you off the roads for a few days to get your head straight and stuff like that. So it's a very valuable program, I think, in that aspect. The biggest part about it is at the end of the year, the driver, why can't I think of that word? What do y'all call them? The transportation director. Sorry, I don't know why I went blank on that. The transportation director can nominate who they think is the district driver of the year. And then we come out and to a board meeting in the spring and present the driver with a plaque that gets come up, take a picture of the board. And it's very emotional, sometimes very emotional, because some of these bus drivers, they're sometimes the first person to see our kids in the morning, the last person to see them in the evening. They don't get a lot of recognition, but they're a very important process or person in the district, and to acknowledge them in front of a board at a board meeting really goes a long way. So it'd be something I recommend if we're not participating, maybe we need to look at doing it as well. Any questions about the current program before I move on? Am I missing anything, Peter?
No, I think that's good. You might want to talk about what is our thought process on what buildings we decide to get replacement value and what buildings we decide actual cash value. What is the normal thought process when your recommendation to the board?
Yeah, so that's a great lead into where we are today, what we're seeing in the market. I don't think it's going to be any surprise for anybody here to hear that we are expecting another rate increase this year in the property insurance market. So one of the things that we've done is we went out to our districts about a month ago and sat down with everybody and said, okay, here's the property schedule we have on file right now. Here's what we're insuring. We reviewed those schedules, asked the district and administration to review them to make sure that there's maybe something on the schedule that doesn't need to be there anymore, or God forbid something that needs to be on there that's not on there, which sometimes happens. But the other process and the discussions we have that he's alluding to are knowing that we know we're expecting some type of increase in our insurance, and we've seen it over the last couple of years. These are the times that we need to be looking at maybe self-insuring on some other items or reducing them from a replacement cost value to an actual cash value, meaning they're not going to pay us to rebuild it, but they'll pay us for what the buildings were today, and we can then elect to not rebuild it. And those decisions, I think, would be important to look at some of the facilities that maybe the district is no longer utilizing, that are not a need to our operations today. Maybe those are the ones we look at and we reduce to an actual cash value basis. There's not a whole lot of rate credit for doing that, I will say that, but you know, dollars are dollars. At the end of the day, I mean, you know, nobody has more dollars to spend on insurance, right? So those are some things to consider. The other things I would say to consider are in these types of markets that we're in, and I'll kind of get a little bit more into that right now, but it's just not a good market, just to be honest with you. These are the times that we need to maybe look at self-insuring on some other items too, unless we're going to continue paying these types of price increases. And those types of things that I would look at, I would say, look at the facilities that we need to complete our primary objective here at Kings YSD, and that's educating our children, right? The baseball fields, the stadiums, the lights, the fencing, the bleachers. Yes, those are all benefits of being a student here at Kingsville, but those don't help educate our children. Those are the items that maybe we look to pull off the schedule for a while we're in this market, self-insuring on those to save some premium dollars and keep them in the district's pocket. And then when the market were to change and go back to what we consider a soft market, rates coming down, prices coming down, then we can have that fat insurance policy again. But at the end of the day, my point here is those are the ways that we can look at some different options to save some premium dollars that, God forbid, we have one of those catastrophic disasters. Our primary objective needs to get our buildings back up so we can educate our children. Yes, we may not have bleachers for parents and friends and families to sit in at the baseball stadium, but at least our kids are getting an education, if that makes sense.
So currently our properties, the ones Memorial and Clayburgh are basically actual cash value. So if those buildings were burned down or a storm came right now, we would just get what they are currently worth. The rest of our buildings are replacement cost value. And that's something that, again, we can bring to the board. We need to make a decision starting in March, which buildings we're going to have an actual cash value and which ones are replacement value. And then there's a couple properties that we don't have any insurance on, such as Lamar, such as McRoberts, right? But we do have insurance if, for instance, if someone would go on that property and get injured there, we just don't have any insurance on the property or contents because we consider that we don't have any value there right now. So that's currently where we are.
Where are we on the facilities? I thought we were supposed to do that.
Facilities, yes, that's probably going to be presented to the board in January.
Because they
facilities,
come out here, as they come out
Yes.
here, and they did conduct facility study.
But they're not finished with the report yet.
I thought we were moving it. Yeah, I thought you guys did it.
No, I contracted out and got quotes and we
We
changed
need
stuff.
experts in that normally do facility studies, so that way we can get an effective report.
So you talked a little bit about self-insurance for some of those.
Yeah, I mean, basically the theory is you would be self-insuring on it if we remove some of those items from the schedule because we wouldn't have any property coverage on them. So, you know, if we had, I know you guys had a tornado come through here a few years or something of that nature, if they were not on the schedule and it did sustain damage, we wouldn't have the insurance. And it's something we can look at, you know, at the board meeting when we bring it, if you guys want to let us in administration kind of work through the numbers and look at what the cost differences would be from a premium standpoint of having everything insured versus maybe pulling some of that stuff off. We can present three different options that way to the board and let y'all make a decision based on that.
Yes.
What's the reason why we didn't use the point to get that?
The amount of the deductible was more than the cost to fix it.
The judge got.
Right. And it would have counted against us anyway, even if we didn't meet our deductible, it would have counted against us anyway, just to report it.
How many claims have we filed altogether?
Well, we have that. I think we looked at it over the last 5 years. It depends on what type of claims you're talking about. If you're talking about auto, there's a couple every year that are filed. If you're talking about professional educator liability, it's one every couple of years. If you're talking about as far as like a storm or something like that, it's also one every couple of years.
Sure. Yeah, usually we don't see a whole lot of claims. Usually the majority of the claims we see other than storm related or something of that nature on school districts is usually on the educator liability employment claims against the district. Other than the small auto claims that we do have frequently too.
I just think maybe that we've got our facilities like Memorial and in Claiborne, we've got these agencies that are there. I think maybe next year we need to start looking that everybody shares in the field.
They're paying for the insurance, correct?
I don't think they're paying for the insurance.
You know, part of the contract is built in the cost of the insurance and the cost of the utilities and the cost of can't think of the third. Custodial taxes, the cost of the appraisal district, because there's a cost to appraise it every year from the appraisal district and tax collections too, so it's all built in.
Do you work with any other school districts?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we have about 60 direct clients from Victoria College all the way to Brownsville over to Laredo.
And if you would, you had any insight on how to save our school district money, would you share that with anyone?
Yes, sir, every day.
And
So
do you have any?
I do, and so one of those was the first one we were discussing is self-insuring on some of these items, and this is the same conversation I literally had at Flower Bluff ISD last Tuesday night. We're going to St. Gertrudis on Thursday night, have the same conversation, but yeah, that's one of the ways. The other way is in this. Let me just jump into where we are in our renewal process because I think it goes all together. The process we're looking at right now, like Mr. Pitts said, our current policy ends on February 28th. The new one starts 3/1. So the process that we work off right now is, like I said, about a month ago, we sat down with administration at the districts and said, okay, here's the property schedules, we need underwriting information, et cetera, so we can get that out to the markets. Again, we're Carlisle Insurance, so we're independent agents and brokers, so we don't represent just one market. The markets we have with y'all right now is PCAT, Property Casualty Alliance of Texas. PCAT is the largest risk pool for school districts in Texas, second only to TASB, because TASB rolls their work comp in there. PCAT does not do work comp. There's about 190 mission members in the program across the state of Texas right now. The property portion we write through Coastal Property Alliance of Texas, because we don't want to subject coastal districts through a risk pool for a number of reasons, but those are not the only markets we have. So we represent a handful of markets. So what we're doing right now is once we gather that underwriting and renewal information from the districts, we are out to every market, not only domestically, but globally. We're out to the Lloyd's of London's, we're out to, overall, there's about 50 different insurance companies right now looking at Kingsville ISD's insurance for a 3-1 renewal. So our job again is to go out to the entire global market, make sure we bring you all the best price and product and present those options to the board. But one of those things that we will do is once we drill it down to who the carriers are that have the best product and price, then we will ask them for some different options. Because again, like I said, we understand you don't have more money in your budget to spend on insurance every year. So what are the options that we can present to y'all to reduce those costs? Because we know the costs are going to go up. So those options would be A, the first one we brought up was self-insuring on some of the property items. B, looking at some higher deductibles. So we discussed earlier, we have a 2% named storm deductible. We'll bring in an option for a 3% and a 5%, just knowing that those are very large deductibles that are going to affect fund balance should we have one of those catastrophic events. But again, like I said earlier, these are the type of markets that we're in that we do need to take some more risk and put a little more skin in the game, knowing that we can't afford more dollars on insurance. And then the third of them is as we sit here today, we like I said, we've got about just call it $160 million worth of property values that we're insuring. Do we look at buying less insurance from what we would refer to as a loss limit? Not to get too much in the weeds, but a loss limit would say, hey, yes, we're providing coverage for all $158 million of those buildings, but we're not buying $158 million of coverage. Maybe we're just buying $50 million of coverage, knowing that the theory behind that is in these types of hurricanes and events, the odds of it being a total loss to the entire district are slim to none. And that's really the way the insurance companies price it. They don't price it thinking that we're going to have a Cat 5 come through here and wipe out $160 million worth of building values. They would go broke if that happened to everybody. They know, and based on those software systems I've talked, those modeling systems, they can read those models and say, we know in a Cat 5 that Kingsville ISD may sustain $20 million worth of damage. And so we will take those same modeling reports, we will review those internally and figure out based on the 500-year storm or the 1,000-year storm, which the 1,000 years is the worst case scenario, what our worst case scenario would be to the district in those types of events, and propose maybe buying what we would call a loss limit, meaning buying less coverage at 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, whatever that may be. And it's really the theory, it's, back in this goes into my market update. So if you looked at the property insurance market over a 40-year period, it's cyclical. It's like a roller coaster. It's got its ups and downs, peaks and valleys, and it's 100% driven based on natural disasters. So what we saw in the market was basically from Hurricane Katrina, which was, I believe, in 2005 up until 2017. That trend was going down. Rates were coming down. There was more insurance companies jumping in to do cheap things. Deductibles were cheap. It was just a great environment for the consumer. 2017 happened. We all know what happened then. We had Harvey, Irma, and Maria. That started the transition upwards in this cycle that we're in right now, what we refer to as a hard market coming from the soft market. And that has not slowed down. So as of, late fall, early 2019, when some of those 2017 storm losses started settling out, the insurance companies started figuring out, kind of where they got hit in the pants based on the lawsuits and stuff. Overnight, we saw the rates start going through the roof. And since then, it has not slowed down. Florida keeps getting hit. Louisiana had 2 or 3 last year. We had the pandemic we went through. We've just had, last December, we had tornadoes in the Midwest in December. We had the great Texas freeze. Just crazy stuff is happening from a weather standpoint that has not stopped. Historically, if you look at it, we're in these hard markets for about 7 to 8 years. We're kind of to the end of that, and we're not really seeing much, sun shining at the end of the tunnel here. But I would say, we almost made it through hurricane season without anything, and then God forbid Ian came through Florida. The projections from that storm are not as high as they were projecting once it hit. I think a lot of that was more on the personal line side of the insurance market from homes and flooding and vehicles and stuff like that. So that should help. But even before that, the periodicals and the reports we were seeing out of the market were indicating already 10 to 15% rate increases before he. So what do I expect for the district here when we come back in January? I think a good number to hang our hat is on 10 to 15% rate increase, just to be honest with you. And again, that goes back to my point of we've got to bring some options to the board because we know there's not another 10 or 50% in the budget to pay on insurance. So that's our commitment to we will bring some options and we'll discuss those and figure out what we want to do at that point. Like I said, from the timeline and process standpoint, we're out in the market right now. The carriers have given us commitment. We gave them a hard deadline, said, hey, we got you the information early. We want a commitment out of y'all that we have, some quotes or at least some indications by the end of December. That way, when everybody comes back from Christmas break, we can start scheduling those meetings with administration to come sit down and go over the numbers and see what they actually look like. Decide, massage it, figure out what kind of presentation we want to put together and bring options to the board. I believe y'all's January board meetings January 17th, so that's already on the schedule. And that's our commitment is to be here for that meeting to give us enough time before 3/1 in case there's some more questions or we want to look at some different options and we can bring it back to the February board meeting and have an ample amount of time to get approval before the 3/1. Oh, I know one thing that I did want to point out, I don't know if this makes anybody feel any better, but I thought it made me feel better, is I did look at a 15, we've been blessed to be your agent for over 15 years, thank you. But I did pull a 15-year snapshot to see what was the district paying 15 years ago compared to where we are today. And really it shows the exact picture of the cyclical market that I had referenced earlier. So in 2008, the rate y'all were paying on your property insurance is less than the rate you're paying today. There's not a whole lot of things doing buying 15 years later, they were paying less for it. Now, dollar wise, you're paying more because your district's bigger than it was 15 years ago. The values are higher, but from a rate standpoint, which is what we like to talk about, the rate is actually lower. And when you look at the trend, it went down until through 2020, it started going back up. And that's just 100% what I referenced earlier, that cyclical market. And again, like I said, we expect it to take another step up this coming year.
Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you. So our rent of Clayburgh Elementary School includes the price of insurance.
Correct. Well,
So in self-insuring for Clayburgh Elementary will not save us any money because we're not paying for it. Is that right?
well, every month they are paying us $11,775. And I tried to build in the rate increases for insurance basically 12% per year, between that 10 and 15% that he recommended. So that because it was a 3-year contract. So I tried to build that into and average it over the 3 years so that it would be in the same amount. So we tried to project as much as possible where the market was going, but.
So you were saying that with saving money and self-insuring would only save us a small bit of money. Not like some of the other things, correct?
Not necessarily. I mean, that's a very good way to do it because again, the way they charge us for our premium is based on a rate per 100 of whatever building we're insuring. So the more values we bring off, the more our premium goes down.
Okay, so it is.
It's a direct correlation.
But my thought is if we're only paying 3% of the 15% that it's going to go up. Because they're increasing in their rent to a higher rate. You said you were going to at 12%.
Well, I already built it in for the 3 years. So there, regardless of what we do on the insurance side, their rate is set for 3 years.
Okay.
So we'll just not buy insurance on those buildings, but still charge them.
That's something we got to discuss and find out.
No, I'm just kidding.
And I know it goes along that same line. Okay, Clayburgh Bay, you charge them $11,000 a month. Have you ever provided us like a breakdown of the 11,000, like say 5,000 goes to insurance, da, 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 da.
I did it at the very beginning when we were looking at the contract, but I can bring it again to you to the, I could just shoot y'all an email if that would be
Okay.
the easiest way.
So that we can,
Any other questions? I have one, how's Mr. Robinette?
Living the dream.
Fishing?
No, he's spending time with grandkids a lot, yes. And
All right.
golfing.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you all, and y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're gonna reconvene the board meeting now. And we are moving on to item number 6, which is new business. Item 6A is discussion and possible action regarding the Coastal Bend College Dual Credit Program Memorandum of Understanding, which can be found on pages 2 to 26 of your packet. Dr. Somerville.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper, Board of Trustees, Dr. Pettis. I'm here today to present the MOU between Coastal Bend College and Kimball ISD. This is for the 23-24 school year, well in advance. The MOU has been adapted to consider an aviation program that we're in discussion with CBC to bring to the district. CBC wants to utilize our facility, which is the ag facility between the two ag classes there and CTE in the back of the school. And we want to be able to teach that CBC aviation mechanic class out of there. What we are discussing with CBC is giving 5 slots to our high school students. Our students would have to be seniors, 17 years old plus, to be able to participate in this program. So we've got to make sure our students are ready to participate and be part of this program, because it is a full day program for our students. I believe we're looking at 20 slots being available to students in the community, Kimball community, 5 being allotted for KSD kids. If we have more kids that are available or meet the qualifications to be part of this program, then we can take up to possibly 20 students to be part of this program. But the additional 15 will pay the tuition established by CBC, which is a full tuition for all students. So the first 5 would be paid at the dual credit rate, which is a cheaper rate, which is I think $125 per section or per course. But if it's a full-time student and then above that 5, then we'll pay the actual cost for those students. Again, we are currently working on this program being finalized. We submitted a grant, and once we find out that this has been approved, then we will move forward with this MOU if it's approved by the board and begin planning for the 2024 school year. Right, Dr. Pettis, 2024?
Yes, but we did get that information yesterday, and so the board has received it.
Perfect.
Okay.
So we are again in the planning phase of making this happen. 2023-24 will be the planning year where CBC will hire the instructors, write the application to the FAA, and then hopefully by 2024 fall semester we are looking to kick this up. Any questions?
20 slots available, 5 for KISD students. Possibly, is that correct?
5 automatic.
5 automatic,
Okay, the other 15 could be people from the community.
correct. But if we've got students that are meet the criteria to be part of this program, then our students will get first priority to the program. So if we got 20 kids that meet
But
it,
at the rate that they normally would pay at.
CBC, correct.
Right?
And being that this program is, they do have to hire 2 FAA certified instructors. So they are paying, 2 top salaries. So we've got to make sure that they're going to be sure that they can sustain the program and be able to keep it afloat.
My thing is, we spent a lot of money securing our campuses. And now we've got people that are outside of the campus community, that will be coming into our campus.
One of the things that we will do, Mr. Garcia, they will be going through a background check. Any student that is admitted to the program, typically at the end of the program, when they do the background check, when they get hired for these positions at Boeing or
say, the Naval Air Station. But the requirement for this program would require that they be background checked before they become part of the program.
And the timing of the classes and all that, they said that they would work very closely with us as well. All the safety measures would be taken into account, just like we are right there at the ag building. I'm sorry, the welding building that's right next door to it too. It's, I know that the naval base and really many people in the community are really excited about this because they've needed it and they train people and then they leave. And, they really want to invest in training people from Kingsville or the surrounding areas, so that way they can have opportunities to get jobs. And like almost like first opportunity, you know, priority to get in there, to get put in the door and maybe stay here with the naval camp or the naval base.
So what's the name of the degree or the certification?
It's aviation mechanics.
That only for 1 year.
It's a 2-year program, is it not, Dennis? I believe
Are
it's a
you
2-year
asking how
program.
many courses?
I know sometimes technical colleges have 3-year degrees, some have where you know, we can warrior it, some are, you know, for 8 months. How long is this program to get certified or do you think it's degree? And there's.
My understanding it's a 2-year program, if I remember.
We're
So-
all seniors, correct?
Yes.
So that means they're gonna get half of.
Correct. They will have to continue that program the following year after they graduate and complete the certification process.
There's no talk of years being allowed.
They've got to be at least 17 years old to participate in the program, and since it's a full-day program, they have to have all their high school credits completed. Because it's gonna be a full-day program, they won't have time to do anything else.
And they're not leaving the school going to the college, they're doing it
No, ma'am.
at the high school.
It'll be at the high school.
Are there any programs that you can participate where the students have to actually be physically there? Because I understand, like, you know, some go for cosmetology where you can't cut hair in the classroom, you have to actually go to community college to get that type of education, hands-on education.
We have the health science where they go to the hospital.
For their internships, not the actual coursework, right?
Well, I mean, they do the EKGs and the phlebotomy and all that. We do have our labs in our campus.
So their certification.
Currently, it's being done at HMK, is my understanding.
They have science certification, that they have to go do.
Animal science, they have to go, don't they go to the vet?
They've got an internship, but that's not actual class.
Well,
The classwork of all HMK is done at the campus, but there are some external, you know, on-the-job training such as the vet tech, the rotation that we do with the
DNA.
DNA courses. There are outside lab work that is done, but most of the classwork is done at HMK.
Is this a preference for this college or is this normal? Because I'm used to being in college where I see actual high school kids come off the high school bus and then go to the lab. So this is just something that practices their
There's so many online now, you know, but Tamu K is more of in person. In fact, Dr. Gus and I, since Savai's just met today with the Tamu K staff about building that program as well. So we have some questions about Tamu K, but CDC does a lot online.
No, because I was curious because you can't learn how to do the hair in a classroom. I don't know how you're gonna learn how to do mechanics. If you don't have a jet or a helicopter.
Well, that's why we're gonna have the jet engine in our facility.
Did we ever have a jet?
Yes,
We did, right?
there was something.
I remember that.
Yes.
Accidents too.
Has
Has that been used? Has that been utilized? Yeah.
We never got that thing up and running. We just, at that time, when we brought that in, the instructor, we were able to secure that instructor at that time.
Just curious about the hands-on experience, that's all.
That'll definitely be hands-on, Mrs. Ramos. CBC will be buying all the equipment for this facility. And it'll be their equipment. We'll just house it. We buy the equipment, as part of this program. It'll be CASD equipment. We'll maintain it and keep it operable so that they can utilize it in the classroom.
It will be an engine.
One thing that I've noticed, when my son came in through the welding program, CBC did nothing to place them, him and other kids, okay, in areas of employment. No, the workforce didn't do a crap, they didn't do crap either. Del Mar does. Del Mar actually, when you coming into school, they actually have an internship with the oil refineries and all these other people to get them a job once they get out. I mean, I don't want our kids to struggle like my son did, to try to find a job in what he was going to school for. So, I mean, I'm okay if they're gonna be helping us place these kids.
Go.
We definitely, we had conversations with Delmar because they've got a program. But the issue that we ran into with Delmar was trying to get the students to school every day and have a full day of instruction and then bring them back. So that's why we had a conversation with BBC.
I'm telling you, there's public transportation. We were doing public transportation 5 a.m. leaving from here to Corpus. And we're leaving, and we were picking them up back at 5 in the afternoon. That should not be an excuse.
No, I think what he's talking about is that the during the day, the classes that they have to take, the regular like math, English and all those, social studies and all those, then to leave to take their 2-hour welding class or whatever it is, to get to Del Mar, they'd have to go take, maybe leave at 5 in the morning, get there and do a 2-hour course, get back to the high school to do the rest of their courses. So working around trying to do that. And we have been in talks with Del Mar as well,
That's what I thought,
because we
yeah.
feel like we want more, we
Yeah.
want better for our
I
kids.
thought that was in the talks, but using the memorial school at some time for that. Maybe I just thought that. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Recently, we had been discussions with Delmar about the welding program. They were looking, they were taking a grant as well. That grant fell through where we had received it. So those discussions have come to a halt, but we're always open to new opportunities for our students, utilizing our facilities, utilizing our students to actually open up new opportunities for them. So we're always open to that. Dr. Pettis is always asking me to chase these opportunities for our kids.
Dr. Donegal, I'm a little confused about the first 5 students we get at the CBC rate.
Correct.
And then past that, they'll take our students, but it's a higher rate. Who pays that higher rate?
We will get that, okay, that range.
But that's a 1-year deal, and then the second year, it's the kids on their own.
They're on their own.
Gotcha.
Now, this is, you just touched on something that I was gonna bring up to you. You have said that the school district will get 5 places at a special rate.
Correct.
But in this MOU, it says the school district guarantees 5 students. A maximum of 5 students for each cohort. Do we know that we're gonna have 5 students every?
We may not,
Well, that's just what happens if we don't, and that's
we
fine.
would go to other students, you know, but. And that question was asked, and that's why they said they would accommodate us first, you know.
And that's,
so-
and I agree.
So about 20 can be hours.
Right, that's what they assured us. Now, we have to think about the profile of the student. So the student, in order for them to take this program, they're 17, so they're seniors. It's almost a full day. So that means they have to have completed the majority of their high school work within 3 years. So it's a very dedicated student who has invested time for 3 years and summers to make sure that they have freed up their schedule as seniors to be able to take these courses. So getting 40 would be, wow, you know.
My question though is the other end. We're guaranteeing 5 students.
From each cohort.
What happens? And that's what I'm just asking. What happens if we don't have 5?
The MOU doesn't specify.
Sorry?
The MOU does not specify what happens in the event that we cannot guarantee. So it's a technical breach, but it's de minimis.
Okay, but that's what I'm asking, and I'm fine with that, as long as it's brought to our attention. And
You know, they have to be monitoring that, and as we bring this every time it's up, then we can have this discussion.
Go ahead, I have a question. You're gonna ask, okay, I know you said all 20 students can be hours. But the first 5 are gonna get the rate, the Del Mar rate. Or whatever.
Those are my comments.
What is the cost after that? have you kind of calculated, say, for instance, we have 15 kids. What's it gonna cost the district for those 10 additional students?
I've not calculated that, I don't know these numbers, I mean,
Well, that changes. It's the established rate by the college board for traditional students at that college. It's whatever that going year's tuition rate is what we would pay for those students.
So Dr. Pitts, my question is, do we have to see what that rate will be so we can consider that for our budget next couple of years or?
Definitely be something that I need to include in the budget, how much we're gonna pay for those students.
Because if those students weren't doing that, we're trying to get our students to take, some college courses, whether it's at TAMUK or CBC. If they weren't gonna be taking the aviation, if these students, the profile of that student is a very disciplined student, they'd be taking something else. They would most likely either be at TAMUK or CBC in a different type of program. Because they've got to be very determined and very disciplined to achieve something. We just happen to have now this program that seems to be an in-demand job, that we're offering.
Can we get kids that are gonna be up to par with their grades when they become seniors? That are gonna say, you know what, my grades are great, I'm gonna go to take this aviation class. Are we gonna have those kids that are gonna be able to do that?
I think the 5 that we're
To
shooting.
me, I think if
is very doable.
If they're very set on their grades and their grade, they can take this class, they're gonna go straight to college somewhere else.
The 5 that we set up initially as part of our conversation with CBC was, these kids are gonna be. It's finding that kids, like the kids that going and doing the early college high school. We know the roadmap or it takes to get to the 48 or the 60 hours of early college high school to get your associates. It's gonna be that kind of kid that wants to be an aircraft mechanic. And they know that because it's gonna take these specific courses and we're going to fast track them and get them done by the
That
third
is
year.
correct.
So they can be part of the program.
That
So
is
we
correct.
know it's gonna be that 5 to get, it's very doable. Doing the 20, it's gonna be tough, I'm gonna be honest.
That kind of kid, I think we're pushing the whole find a program to graduate with when they're sitting right in front of us, the basic high school diploma, which can be done easily in 2 years. And then a student can easily do this in a senior year. So if we don't push those extra programs on kids who have interests in aviation, it's extremely doable and it doesn't take a high achieving kid to do that.
It doesn't, it's not, but it does take some planning in terms of getting some of those courses that, we typically have 4 years. We've got to condense it to a 3-year, time frame. It's very doable, it takes. The hardest part that we run into with any high school, student, and Mr. Miles can attest to that, or anyone who works with high school kids. They don't always know what they want to do 9th grade year. That is where we struggle. We've got to make sure that we find those kids that have an interest in aviation or mechanics. And you start putting them into those principles of auto tech, because they start getting the principles of how, engines perform and how they work. And then we guide them into that 2nd, 3rd year to hopefully help them faster to high school. So they become those potential students for.
Do the counselors know how much these people get paid? Because I do. Do they do? I do. I know what benefits come with it. I know how, way more than most. I know how, yeah, they get paid good money and we can show that there's people and contractors sitting there at NAS wanting to be paid $48 to $62 an hour plus benefits.
But it's hard to get a 14-year-old to understand that.
No, but that's.
What?
But you have to be. You dangle the money in front of.
Oh, yeah, you said, well, right here in your backyard.
As we discussed when we first started talking about this plan, there's going to have to be a big push in the beginning, like a promotional pitch for this program, because we got to start getting these kids freshman sophomore year.
But we have to get excited about it, and
Yes.
for me to get excited about it, and for the students to get excited about it.
So we're going to definitely push. We talked about doing visits to NAS. The kids can see what it looks like in terms of being in a hangar, seeing an engine, seeing what it looks like to see those tools. Those are the kind of kids we got to start pulling, we got to start doing it. Now that we've got the verification that the grant has been approved, now it's a matter of putting this program together and pitching it to our kids, because we got a 2-year process to get that junior, senior kid down the road.
The issue with this, and I'm gonna be the one to say it and write it down in the
Minutes?
minutes, please. But I've been to these meetings, I've heard, the negative comments, I've heard. We pushed the early college and nothing was done with it for years, I'm assuming, this is way before I got here. But we're sitting here with a big program which hardly any kid is using. Now we're gonna have this new program coming in. What is KISD gonna do to take steps to ensure that there's participation, there's advertisement, there's kids filling up these classrooms from our school first? Then to let it become stagnant, a hot mess with hardly anybody involved in this and hardly any kids enrolled, where we can't say that we accomplished what we set out to do.
One step we could take is we already have career investigations, I think, in 8th grade. And if we do a presentation to the 8th graders before they come, then we can hopefully generate interest so they can start 9th grade taking the courses they need to take.
I think it's more of a rhetorical question.
Oh,
Because I don't want to be sitting out there in the audience, not a board member and my kids in high school, and I'm wondering where this program is and why it fell off the side of the cliff. Because the people in the current administration, and the current leadership didn't do what they should have done to make sure this is a program that grows and benefits everybody in the KIC community and KIC community first. And I Brian's sitting there, I know you've been through those arguments about the confusion of the early college.
Early college, high school was never understood
Right. So I-
by the administration.
Um,
And it is not, there's a great deal of confusion between early college, high school and dual credit classes. And people thought it meant the same thing and it doesn't. It's night and day. The target group for the early college, high school are those kids who otherwise would not have any type of chance to go to college. And it was never really targeted down in the 8th grade and the 9th grade where it needed to be targeted. And then there have just been a handful of kids come through that saw any value in an associate's degree.
I just really don't want to be here 4 years from now being like, so. All that effort and work and it.
And I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure you don't do that.
Appreciate that.
All right. So with the early college, I agree, there was no plan. All 850 kids were coded early college. How realistic was that? So your program's only gonna be as good as your plan is. And you have to have the right people on the bus running it. And so that's what we're determined to do. That's why we have our CNI team meeting with the colleges now. That's why we're gonna celebrate. It's not all about the associate's degree. It's about the 42 college hours, the core. And every district is now, we just met with Dr. Bella from the president of Tampa K last week. 6 of us superintendents, with 8 of us superintendents. And we're all agreeing that we're gonna be celebrating the fact that kids are earning 42 college hours, not just the associate's degree. Because sometimes if you earn more than the 42, you shoot yourself in the butt, because so it just, we need to educate parents to understand that. I think we've done a better job at recruiting because if, I hope y'all remember the May, we had like 58 to 61 kids, when before we've always had 25, 28 at the most. So we're doing something right as far as recruitment. I want to do the same thing, but we got to be very strategic about the profile of the kid that we're looking for this program. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. It is in demand. I can think of people I know that, I wish my own kids, growing up would have had some of these opportunities because they're in demand,
And Liz, the other thing I think that answers your question a bit is that we saw prior administrations, things just kind of, let's take a picture for the paper, and we've got the certificate on the wall that says that we do this. But look at the difference in the number of certifications that came out of last year's versus the year prior. I mean, it's huge. I think this administration has taken this seriously and said CTE is not just a place for the misfits anymore. We want kids that are out there that have employable
I'll
skills.
tell you what, I'm almost there. Dr. Pettis said it. There needs to be excitement from the top, from us. When we're excited, she's excited, staff will be excited. But I do want to see and make sure that we have the money. Okay, that if that senior comes in, it's a 2-year program, is that right, Dr. Sutherland?
It's a 2-year program.
Okay, so that senior comes in and we take care of that first year. That when they're out, that KIC is gonna take care of the second year?
No.
No,
Currently, no, that's not what we've discussed.
How is that child gonna be able to?
but we have to be very strategic in making sure that the kid is applying for the FAFSA,
Gotcha, good. We get
qualifying,
that group that's here to help us.
right,
Okay.
qualifying to get free tuition, you know.
And I'm okay with that. Third thing is this, is that Coastal Bend College takes an active role in trying to place these kids in employment. That's this reason.
You know, building on this and the CTE program in the past, it was just doing the same thing over and over again. So now there's new energy and new ideas. It's good, but before, and we've discussed this before, it was stagnant.
Yeah.
You know, it looked good in paper, it looked good in pictures, we did it, but it wasn't moving the way it was supposed to, and I was a part of it. So.
But you were limited, but this, there's you were limited. Yeah, that's right.
Are there any other questions or specific discussion?
That's right.
I just have a quick question here, Dr. Stone, Dr. Sandoval, commenting question. Thanks for having this almost a year out. Great. What other programs do you see in the future that we could be doing? And I know there's probably a couple.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the push has been, we're having to look to see what TEAs and account as, you know, credit for CCMR for one thing. What can we afford? How many kids are interested in the programs? We would really love to bring cosmetology back and culinary arts back. We really, really would. But we would, I don't know about massage therapy. Cosmetology has not been here in a few years. I don't know how long it's been. How long has it been?
Way before I came back,
Yeah.
I would say at least.
It was so productive back in the day, the 80s, yeah.
So they used to do our seniors, and now
Yeah.
you do our seniors now? Commissioner Salinas. Commissioner Salinas gets, I don't know who they are, but it's like 3 or 4 guys and women, and they do all our seniors haircuts for them. For Christmas and birthday. Great, come on.
Yeah, we need to look at facilities.
They leave and not get.
We'll need on those things. So,
One final question. This is probably to Dr. Pettit and Dr. Sandoval. 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago, CBC had some administrative issues. They were in the news with some problems for the administrator. And in y'all's experience with them, is that all kind of gone away?
we haven't had to deal with any of that. What we are concerned about is the support of some of our students who are taking the online classes or less than 100% support, I guess you could say, of our kids who are struggling in some of their online classes. And that is a conversation we had with Tamu K today about this is what we need. We need personable help with these kids who are struggling in their college classes.
All right, any further questions? If not, we've all seen the memorandum of understanding. We've heard the administration's recommendation that we approve this MOU. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Garcia. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Mr. Bluesing. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, sir.
All right, item number 7 and the remainder of the meeting will be held in closed session. We're going to enter into closed session, of course, with Texas Open Meeting, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.074 to deliberate and consider the following. A, consider employment of contracted personnel, RN. B, discussion with legal counsel regarding legislative budget board report. C, consider and deliberate with legal counsel regarding legal and personnel matters. D, discussion of status of potential real estate transactions. No action will be taken until the return to open session. We're entering closed session at 6:36 p.m.
And that could be.
Do you want to go to the back or do you want?
More comfortable in here than.